Good morning and welcome to the Friday, February 10th edition of the OBX Wave Report. This is a Friday for Future edition of the OBX Wave Report where we cross the streams with climate activists and various charity organizations to help promote coastal defense and climate action as various heroic and brave climate activists confront the powers that be around the world in an effort to fight for climate justice and for our future, for the future of our children, and for the future of all living here today. And I did want to start this segment with a beautiful capture of a dolphin that I got yesterday down at Avon Pier as I took a little surf adventure south. Um, it's hard to express the joy and wonder that you feel when you behold the beauty, the natural poetry in action of our fellow creatures on this earth. And it reminds me how special a place it is that we all share here. A pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan once said, a place that is certainly unique to our solar system and the only world that we know that supports such vast richness that comes in the form of life. And as we reach out to help support the climate activists today on this Friday for Future, I just like to remind everyone where the prosperity and wealth that we all enjoy comes from. It's not from the resources that we extract or the things that we exploit. It's from the life that is given to us on this pale blue dot and the wonderful, vital supports for life that are all around us. So I invite you to share with me in the joy of beholding one aspect of the great interconnected web of life on this planet, so vividly displayed to me yesterday at Avon Pier when I went in search of waves and surf buddies to share those waves with. I just will say that I didn't find any fellow human surfers, but I did find this one dolphin surfer out there at Avon, and just seeing that particular dolphin surfer was certainly enough for me to make the trip. It was something an experience I will treasure throughout my life. And I did manage to get some waves yesterday. I went back to Jeanette's Pier and joined about 20 of my fellow surfers there at Jeanette's and got some great waves as well. But I'm gonna send a Friday for Future shout out to this dolphin here who reminded me in many ways of what's so important. And one of the reasons why I'm here in the Outer Banks on the front lines of human-caused climate change. Um, and I'm here to speak out for our life supports and to enjoy and live in communion with the life supports and the glory of nature here on the Outer Banks, out here on the edge. And I'm here to be on the edge to confront climate crisis and to stand with the activists in helping to beat it back and to fight for our future, for our world. for all of our lives and prosperity and the vital supports that still exist in our world and that we can rejuvenate and foster and shore up if we put our minds to it and our hearts to it and we make the effort. All right, so thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. I am Robert Scribbler, your wave reporter on all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle. And on this Friday for Future, we are looking into the near term and starting to watch a nor'easter begin to form over the southeast of the US. And using our monitors provided to us by NOAA, this is a public service provided by NOAA. I am not pirating this image from anything. This is an image provided by the government of the United States, of we the people, and this is something that we can all use and share. And sharing it with you now, it's just a beautiful satellite image of the lower 48 of the United States, and you can see the frontal boundary here in the form of clouds that is presently draped across the coastal regions of the southeastern United States, trailing down into Florida, and then dipping even further down here into the Gulf of Mexico. You also see the low pressure system up here to the north over the St. Lawrence region. This low pressure helped to drag this frontal boundary across the southeast. And right now, the low pressure is heading off off to the east and to the north, and it's going to leave this frontal boundary stalled over the next couple of days. And then energy here in the Gulf is expected to translate into a low pressure system over the US Southeast that is expected to intensify into a strong low as it moves on up the East Coast, bringing near gale force or gale force conditions to the Outer Banks along with heavy rains and rough surf. We'll see how rough it gets. Again, there is always some uncertainty in the weather forecast, but we are pretty close to the forecast point for this system. And as you get closer, the forecasts tend to be more accurate. All right, so let's get further into it. I want to show you this infrared satellite picture provided by Tropical Tidbits, a satellite picture that is part of the weather monitoring system for the United States, but is hosted and remastered by Levi Cohen's Tropical Tidbits. I highly recommend you follow Levi on the Twitters. He is a tropical weather expert and will be pivotal for understanding our hurricane season as we get into that later on this year. I'm just using this monitor from Tropical Tidbits to take a look at our developing nor'easter here. You can see some storms firing off the Texas and Louisiana coasts out in the Gulf of Mexico, some more storms firing over the panhandle of Florida, and an area of disturbed weather also firing off across the east coast of the United States and just offshore with some thunderstorm activity, looks like out here off of South Carolina, Georgia, parts of North Carolina. This feature is going to be the main event for the weekend, although it's worth noting we've got some storms running into the Pacific Northwest here in British Columbia, Seattle, Washington and Oregon, parts of Northern California, as well as some disturbed weather coming in through the Dakotas, but nothing too major. The main event here being the nor'easter that is starting to form. Now, I do want to show you the forecast sustained winds for the Outer Banks by early Sunday. So right now the forecast is pointing toward the formation of a low pressure system Saturday and forming into a nor'easter type system into late Saturday and then into early Sunday. And By this time, we're expecting on early Sunday morning, it looks like gale force to near gale force sustained winds running in from the east and northeast on the beaches of the Outer Banks. This also in association with bands of heavy precipitation. It looks like we're going to get between 2 and 4 inches of rain from this system, as well as gale force to near gale force sustained winds with possible gusts much stronger in the range of 40 to possibly 50 miles an hour. This with the present system. The National Weather Service is pointing toward a strong low developing. It's worth noting that in the millibar range, it's not expected to be a kind of bomb cyclone, at least as yet in the global forecast system model. We'll just keep an eye on it, but there are a number of features that are very notable related to this system. We have a very large high pressure system off to the east that's helping to feed in some pressure differential between the low pressure system over the east coast and the high pressure system offshore. And we have another high pressure center south and east of Bermuda here, so kind of a double barrel high pressure center bringing winds both from the south and east. And then the storm itself, which combines features of a warm front sweeping on toward the north, a cold front coming in on the backside of the warm front. So you got this classic pattern with a warm front on the leading edge and a cold front trailing down to the south with westerly winds behind it. And then the series of low pressure systems just kind of looks like 1, 2, 3 centers of low pressure anchoring the front. And that's a real classic pattern for a nor'easter. Plus the adding in the slow motion of the system is likely to have some pretty significant effects on the U.S. East Coast. Here in the Outer Banks, we're likely to see strong winds, heavy surf, heavy rain. That's your nor'easter pattern right now. And looking at the National Weather Service marine forecast provided by NOAA and the National Weather Service, they're still calling for, as of, let's see if we got an update. Oh, we do have an update. So just recently at 9:52 a.m., we're getting another update from the National Weather Service. I say service. I need to get my enunciation down. All right. But according to the National Weather Service, a cold front will approach the coast early today, move offshore later today and tonight, and then stall across the southern waters Saturday as a series of weak low pressure areas develop and move northeast along the boundary. A strong low pressure system will develop along the southeast coast Saturday night, then move northeast across the waters Sunday through Monday night while pulling a cold front east over the area. Mariners are urged to monitor the latest forecast for the weekend into early next week. A low pressure trough will move east across the waters Monday through Tuesday. High pressure will then build east Tuesday and into Tuesday night. And it's worth noting that gale force winds are now being highlighted by the National Weather Service, and I will go ahead and also show you that gale warnings and small craft advisories are now up for the Outer Banks, with small craft advisories and gale watches north. So just here in Manio and Jeanette's Pier region, we've got a small craft advisory, and just as you get to the south down toward Oregon Inlet, you've got a gale warning and small craft advisories up. And then as you head on down to Hatteras and Buxton, gale warnings as well, and gale warnings for Ocracoke and moving on south toward Wilmington. So gale warnings starting to pop up along the coast in advance of the system. And you can see those thunderstorms firing off the U.S. East Coast, a line of thunderstorms running through the panhandle of Florida, and another line of thunderstorms running out over the waters east of New Orleans and south of Alabama and Mississippi here. So the storm system is starting to ramp up, and we're going to get some interesting features from this storm system as the days progress through the weekend. All right, so I did want to show you the quantitative prediction forecast provided by NOAA's um, precipitation monitor. And I've changed the outlook horizon to 72 hours. I typically look at the 7-day to give a larger view, but since we are expected to see a nor'easter, I did want to identify how much precipitation we're expected to get here in the Outer Banks in association with this system. But it does look like between 2 and 4 inches of rain possible, perhaps as much as 5 to 7 inches in some isolated spots, but we shall see as the storm develops. But nonetheless, some pretty heavy rain expected in association with this developing storm system. All right, now getting down to the coastline, I do want to highlight some of the surf locations and provide for you guys a forecast and assessment of the surf conditions for 3 select locations along the Outer Banks. And it is worth noting that right now, waves for the Outer Banks are in the range of 1 to 4 feet across the Outer Banks. The swell has come down a bit, but there are still rideable waves at a number of locations and likely still good surf. My experience has been that the monitors seem to have undershot the actual wave conditions over the past couple of days. I don't have a yardstick or tape measure when I go down for my beach observations, so it's hard to tell exactly what the wave heights are, but it does appear that the wave heights were rather larger than predicted by the monitors out there in the surf yesterday. And I did get out in the surf for a nice session, uh, quite enjoyable there at Jeanette's Pier. Lots of good surfer pals to go surfing with. Um, and so starting at Jeanette's Pier right now, we've got, according to the monitors, 2 to 3 foot waves. And I do want to talk a little bit about the wave forecast. I typically show you the model, but I also want to just, since we have a nor'easter coming, I want to talk to you about when the time of storminess is expected and what the wave forecasts are. So for today, they expect 2 to 3 foot waves at Jeanette's Pier. Into Saturday, likely to still be rideable into the morning and possibly early afternoon time frame ahead of the storm in the 2 to 4 foot range. And then by Sunday, waves expected to rise considerably to the 5 to 7 foot range or taller. I think that might actually be undershooting what we will experience if we do get onshore gale force winds there at Jeanette's Pier. So I'm going to put a little asterisk beside that local forecast for Jeanette's Pier. Right now, the 2 to 4 foot waves are coming in with a primary period of 11 seconds and a secondary period of 9 seconds. Winds are out of the southwest at 13 miles per hour, which is offshore, helping to hollow out those waves. It's a little bit stronger than gentle, but not quite fresh. um, Air temperatures are in the range of 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperatures in the range of 48. I got down there yesterday. It was closer to 50. I don't know if that's the case now. Weather conditions are cloudy with intermittent light rain and an expected high today of 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Moving on down south, using our Google Maps for informational purposes, I am going to head on down to Rodanth. I did get down to Rodanth for a peek at Rodanth waves. I did not take a video here from Rodanth yesterday. I got a video from Avon, gorgeous video that included that dolphin I showed to you earlier. But right now at Rodanth, the waves are in the range of 2 to 3 feet. Waves are expected to maintain in that range through Saturday and starting to build late Saturday and into Sunday. Sunday, the monitors are saying that waves are expected to be between 4 and 6 foot. I would put an asterisk beside that. If we get onshore gale force winds, waves are likely to be considerably larger than 4 to 6 foot. But right now, that's the prediction. I don't know. Maybe there's some caution in the models as to like the location of the low, and that can have an impact on how strong the winds are here in the Outer Banks and when the low starts to strengthen can have an impact as well. Air temperatures right now at Rodanthe are 61 degrees. Ocean water temperature is much warmer down there at 56 degrees. Weather conditions are cloudy to partly cloudy with rain expected by evening, and the expected high today at 61 degrees Fahrenheit apparently has already been reached. And then moving on down south to Buxton, we're going to go on past Avon Pier, which we visited yesterday. Got some great video for you guys. And then we're going to head on down south to Buxton Beach. And right now, Buxton is the big wave spot of the Outer Banks with a 3 to 4 foot swell. I'll put a little asterisk there. We do actually have a south swell that's in the range of 5 feet. I don't know how much that's wrapping in, and that looks like it might be a wind-driven swell, so might be kind of confused and choppy down there at Buxton. I'm not too certain. I'm not down there. But nonetheless, 3 to 4 foot, maybe 5 foot waves down there at Buxton right now. These waves are expected to improve through tomorrow to the 4 to 5 foot range, and then pump up again on Saturday into Sunday into the 6 to 7 foot range, again with the big old asterisk, as if we get onshore gale force winds, those waves will be considerably larger than 6 to 7 feet. I think the wave models here are being a little cautious. We'll see. Primary swell right now at Buxton coming in at 11 seconds with around 2 foot waves in the 11-second primary swell, around 2 foot waves in the 10-second secondary swell, and then we got a wind swell coming in from the south at around 5 feet. Right now, winds are coming from the southwest at Buxton. That is an offshore wind pattern. Air temperatures in the range of 62 degrees Fahrenheit there at Buxton, pretty warm. Ocean water temperatures rather warm at 65. Well, warm for this. Well, I don't know. Like it's not unseasonably warm, but it's winter time. 65-degree water temperatures is uh, pretty nice for winter time. You won't have to have likely won't need your hoodie, your booties, your gloves. Yeah, you might want the gloves and booties. It depends on your cold weather tolerance. But in any case, 65-degree water temperature is much warmer than 48 out here near Jeanette's Pier. Weather conditions right now at Buxton are cloudy with a possible thunderstorm by evening, with some of the unstable weather coming in off the ocean or coming in from the south and west over the Buxton region, possibly firing a thunderstorm by evening in association with that front that's draped across the area. And the expected high today at Buxton is 55 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so that is our roundup of locations and wave conditions right now and predicted wave conditions over the weekend. Now, looking at the larger 8 to 14 day outlook, I do want to draw back and take a look at this. Predicted temperature anomalies between the east and the west, and things are really starting to get interesting from a dipole perspective. A dipole is when you have regions of temperature that have a high variance from east to west rather than north to south. And so you've got this dipole anomaly here with what much warmer than normal temperatures here in the east and much colder than normal temperatures out west. And what this seems to indicate is that we've got a big trough coming in the jet stream out west, driving those colder airs, and a big ridge here in the east expected in the February 17 through 23 timeframe. And when we've got that, we might get stormy conditions between the two. Big old dipoles like this do have a climate change fingerprint and might also be in association with kind of Rossby wave in the atmosphere. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. That might be something worth reporting on from the climate standpoint. And looking at the precipitation outlook, we do have above normal precipitation expected for the US West and for parts of the central US as well. And I think that generally is something that we would expect given a given that extreme dipole. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Might be some climate and weather news in association with that feature. But again, this is out in the February 17 to 23 timeframe, so we can take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. It does, however, give us a sense of where the patterns might be lining up for weather and climate conditions, climate change related conditions over the next couple of weeks. Okay, looking at the convective outlooks, looks like we got some potential for thunderstorms into the southeast today and then tomorrow, and then across the Outer Banks running into Sunday. So I had a friend that was asking me about thunderstorms last night, and I said there probably wouldn't be. But here now we have some convective potential for Sunday, so we'll see. Hopefully not too crazy in the way of thunderstorms. It doesn't look too crazy. All right, so looking at the global forecast system model, we can see that front draped across the southeast right now. This is the most recent model. It looks like we've got it out to the 60-hour time frame. I'm going to go ahead and advance this model if we have to get any further on into the future. I'll switch back to the earlier run, which goes much further out in time. All right, so getting on later into, well, early into the day on Saturday, we've got this front stalled, firing off some thunderstorms and showers across the southeast early in the day on Saturday. The front then intensifies and we get these low pressure systems running along it as we get more into the day on Saturday. And then stormier weather continues to persist across the southeast as the front sags a little bit. And we start to get a low pressure forming up late Saturday and then into early Sunday. And then by Sunday, the low transitions to the coastline in this most recent model. And here we're starting to get our nor'easter type conditions on the Outer Banks by, it looks like, early Sunday. And then the low shifts off just south of, looks like Morehead City, and then heads on east of the Outer Banks by later in the day on Sunday, pulling in some rather stormy condition behind it. And then it seems to button hook back toward the tidewater area late Sunday into early Monday. And that's, again, kind of a classic nor'easter type pattern. We'll see if the storm lingers and maybe sags back south and drags that gale force wind field back and forth across the Outer Banks a couple of times. Right now, it looks like it's more expected to head on off to the north and east Monday and not linger as long, and that would be consistent with a somewhat less intense event, but nonetheless a strong nor'easter expected to ride on into the Outer Banks by late Saturday and into early Sunday. All right, so I did talk about wave forecasts in the local observations. I do want to talk about wave forecasts in the models. And right now, the waves in the near offshore environment are in the range of 3 to 5 feet. This is not entirely translating to the coastline according to the local observations. And then into tomorrow, we're starting to get that more northeasterly flow with wave heights expected to kick up in the near offshore environment in the 5 to 7 foot range. And we'll see how that translates down to the coast tomorrow as we get some local observations. That's Saturday. And then as we get into Sunday, we get that onshore flow, strong onshore flow, gale force winds. Wave models right now indicating 9 to 10 foot waves coming directly toward the shore. And this might kick up a little bit higher as the storm gets its act together or not. Not seeing as much in the way of large waves or larger waves. We had some 14-foot waves in the mall yesterday. I don't see that for today. And this is in the model forecast for Sunday, but today's initialization of the global forecast system model. And then as we get into Monday, the storm is expected to head on off to the east And we get some pretty nice surf behind it in the range of 5 to looks like around 6 feet in the near offshore environment. And then I'm going to tease this up to Tuesday. Um, yeah, so early in the morning on Tuesday, it looks like we still have some pretty decent waves coming in towards shore in the range of 4 to 5 feet. And we'll just have to see how that translates to the coastline. But it looks like the angle of the waves is such that you'll get a more direct swell, which tends to favor better surf. All right, so thank you for joining me for this episode of the OBX Wave Report, where we discuss all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle. In this report, we focused on a nor'easter that is expected to develop across the Outer Banks by late Saturday and into Sunday, likely continuing to have effects at least into early Monday. And we'll see how severe it is as we get on into the weekend. Uh, this one doesn't look too extreme to me, but it is a nor'easter. It's likely to bring some pretty intense effects. My general sense is maybe the models might be undershooting some of the impacts, particularly to the waves, but we'll see. We shall see. All right, and as we always do with our endings on the wave report, I'd like to ask you to please do everything you can to save our beautiful coastlines from the impacts of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning. The primary action right now, according to many of the scientists, is to mass deploy clean energy and thereby reduce global carbon emissions this decade by 50% or more to keep us in a range of 1.5 degrees Celsius warming this century or less. And the primary elements of the clean energy system that are capable of mass deployment right now are wind, solar, and electric vehicles. So let's get involved with that effort. Let's help to save and shore up the life supports of our planet. Let's stop burning the nasty goops that are fossil fuels and injecting the nasty, harmful heat trapping gases in excess into our atmosphere that are destabilizing our climate system. So thank you for joining me again, and I will be back with you shortly.